Of the Screen Industry Research and Training Center and a faculty member at Sheridan College. John is director of Sirt, a collaborative innovation facility established by Sheridan College at Pinewood, Toronto Studios, with industry and academic partners and government support. Sirt's mission is to foster economic growth through development and integration of new digital technologies and processes within the cinema, television, and interactive industries. John was presented with the Province of Ontario's Orion 2012 Leadership Award for his innovation work with higher education. At Sheridan, John has taught directing, visual effects, and Previs, a unique postgraduate program course for his directing, cinematography, and production design students. His research interests include digital workflow, pre-visualization, virtual production, and stereoscopic 3D production. John?
So I'm, as mentioned, I'm a faculty member at Sheridan, and I'm actually in the faculty of animation arts and design. So I'm sure most of you are aware of Sheridan, but the faculty of animation arts and design is the largest postgraduate or post-secondary arts school in Canada in terms of the size of just as a faculty. It's larger than any other school. It ranges from crafts to broadcast journalism, animation, gaming, visual effects, theater animation, traditional animation. So that's the context that I work within. The work that I do as director of a research and training center called Sirt is really a reflection of the direction that Sheridan as an institution has decided to go in the last 4 or 5 years. And that's becoming more evident as we move forward. And really what it's about is trying to integrate research and creative activities into every course. Everything that students do within different programs is to have a research component to it in some way. So Sirt is a research center within Sheridan. We're part of the Applied Research Division, but we're actually associated with the Faculty of Animation Arts and Design. So as director of Sirt, I answer both to applied research and to the dean of the Faculty of Animation Arts and Design. And that's an intentional sort of cross appointment or hierarchy, so that we ensure that research is part of the curriculum. So it's really about trying to figure out ways of bringing research into the program so that faculty and students can be working with the industry on innovation projects. And the facility that's been set up at Pinewood, Toronto Studios deals with a variety of activities. We originally started out 4 years ago, and we just did applied research. We were funded by a couple of government agencies as a result of commitments from industry. Traditionally, what happens in applied research activities is that your government funding is based on matching funds, either cash or kind of a combination of the two from industry. So we received funding from the government, and originally it was applied research. We did a little bit of training based upon some money we got from the Ontario government, but the way that the government agency saw it was based on an envelope that was really based on a university model. So our original mandate was applied research and knowledge, what they call knowledge dissemination. So it was much more traditionally based on the idea of papers or some sort of seminars or workshops where the applied research activities were made available or disseminated to people. More recently, last year, we received some funding based upon an application we made. We've been designated, Sirt has been designated as what's called a Technology Access Center, and it's a designation that the federal government has set up across the country based upon a model in Quebec, and it's to set up centers that really work within the whole innovation spectrum within a region and in a particular industry sector. So we've been designated as a technology access center within what's called the screen industries: film, television, gaming, interactive media. And as part of that, we do more short-term consulting. We can do a lot more work on training and professional development, and we work a lot with other industry that's a large part of what we do. And the role that this plays within the school as a whole is that we're sort of in a sense, a finishing school for some students, but we're also a center that's supposed to feed back into curriculum, so that we have students who work with us as interns, and we have quite a range of students. We found that given the work that we do, that most of it is interdisciplinary. So at any one time, we have a staff. Bert Dunk, who's our technology supervisor, is here tonight. So he's a permanent staff member. We have faculty that work with us, and then we also have students who work with us. And right now we've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, we have eight students that are working with us, and they're employees. They work with us normally as part of the placement, but they work as part of a team with staff members like Bert and some technology leads that we have in specific areas. But they tend to work on research projects, and at any one time they might be working on multiple projects. And that's part of their internship, as opposed to going to an individual company and working with that company during their 3-month placement or internship, or during the summer. They'll come with us and they'll work on different research projects. And as it says there, they're basically, I mean, we tend to get students in computer programming, students from what has been called the Media Arts program. So we get cinematography, post-production, editing, visual effects students. We get animation students from both the computer animation program, which is a post-grad program at Sheridan, as well as students from the 4-year animation program. And we have one student now, grad, who's from project management business faculty, and we have students from different programs that really sort of work together in the different ways that really you need to in the industry right now. So we are located, as I mentioned, at Pinewood Toronto Studios, and Sheridan again made a commitment. They decided about 4 years ago when we set up that the programs that deal with animation, arts and design, and television broadcast are in Oakville, and they decided that they wanted to set up a center within Toronto that could be closer to the Toronto industry. So there was an intentional, there was a decision made that they would set up a facility in downtown Toronto. So they made that commitment. There's a financial commitment that's been made, that's just been renewed. And so we're set up at Pinewood Toronto Studios in the east end of Toronto, and just some shots of Pinewood. That's us in the lower left corner, not the large mega studio. So we're actually right now in what was a carpentry shop, 5,000 square feet. But we're moving in June. Again, a commitment by Sheridan. We're moving in June to a 10,000 square foot studio space based upon needs and growth that we've had. This is our current space. I don't know if some of you have been there or not, but it's a combination. It's a multi-use space. So we have projector and screens. We use it for workshops. We've had 10, 15 people working on new camera technologies or 3D rigs. So hands-on and working on learning or on research on particular technologies. But we've also had 250 people in there for seminars and workshops where we bring together people from the industry, people from the Directors Guild, from producer organizations, the Cinematographers Guild, the Editor Guilds have had workshops and seminars there. So it really is a multi-use space that we've tried to set up as an open space for as much as possible for industry to collaborate in and to bring people together. We work with Christie a lot, and we have a 4K projector that is in the studio space, and we have 22-foot silver and white screens. We have master image and real D 3D projection capabilities. We also work expand. Yes, we have that too. Thanks to Bert's ongoing work. We also work extensively in high frame rate. Bert's working very closely with Christie Digital. We work with York University. We currently have a 3-year research project with York's faculty, particularly in their Center for Vision Research. So we're working with them. A lot of the testing that was done prior to the original Hobbit coming out in terms of Christie's projectors and high frame rate was actually done at Sirt, working with Christie. This is just a little a short video showing some of the stuff that we do. A lot of what you'll see is in the area of motion capture, performance capture work. Also, this is some demo material that Bert oversaw that was shown at NAB and also at SIGGRAPH in the high frame rate area. We did some test shooting as part of the research that I'm talking about with Christie and York University. Again, just examples of work that we do. These are all students. These aren't students. The ones that you saw before. A lot of people working on different projects are a combination of industry people and students working together. And a lot of the work that we do in terms of training and professional development is great because what it does is it brings students and professionals together, not just within the training experiences themselves, but it means that as we're developing training materials for industry, which we do constantly, we're the official training partner for the International Cinematographers Guild in Ontario and Eastern Canada. IATSE 667. So we work with 667 on development of their training materials and delivery. But what it means is that as we do that, we're able to identify areas that industry professionals need upgrading on, but we can feed that back into curriculum within Sheridan. So that's a lot of the loop. I mean, we bring individual students in and work as researchers, but constantly what we're doing is we're working with faculty members and with programs within Sheridan to see how we can then build new curriculum based upon the findings that we have within the work that we're doing with industry. And we were set up really, in a sense, to recognize the fact that Ontario is based on small and medium-sized enterprises, and a lot of the technical labor that happens within different fields is freelance or contract. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to create a collaboration hub where a lot of expertise in different areas can be accumulated. On a different production, I mean, a lot of stuff is done and you know, people will be brought together and advances are made and the individual gains that knowledge, but a lot of times at the end of a series or a feature project, people go their separate ways and that. So we try to work with industry and accumulate that information. So constantly as we get involved in the next project, we're a little bit higher in terms of the knowledge that we have. We've really taken the approach that it's all based on partnerships. So our applied research is working with individual companies. So we work with you know, a variety of different companies, prototyping a 3D camera rig, working with a gaming company on facial animation techniques, working with Christie on high frame rate projection, working with different companies on the development of software plugins for work that they're doing. One company that developed a tool based on Unity Game Engine. They needed to integrate real world camera parameters and variables into that. So we worked with Bert's team in terms of testing of real world cameras and getting correct field of view and based on focal length and other variables. And then the programmers that are part of our team were able to work to integrate that into a software. So you've got that sort of team-based approach. But we constantly are trying to collaborate with people and bring different groups together. We try as much as possible to be a facilitator of work that's being done. As I mentioned, Bert works extensively as technology supervisor in all areas, but has worked extensively leading the high frame rate and 2D workflow. We do a lot of work in, as I mentioned, in virtual production, and most recently we started to do work in remote collaboration and offsite storage and render that I'll get into a little bit. But just in terms of the Previs virtual production stuff, basically what we're doing is we're working with different companies and guilds on how do you bring 3D into earlier stages of a production and use it as a way to creatively collaborate and have interaction. So a lot of it is based on how do you get those visuals as early as possible in a story or a script stage so that people can be responding to visuals as opposed to words on a page. So creating a 3D environment, and a lot of that, just as an example of the sort of stuff that we've been doing, is you know, a designer in a film project or a television set sort of situation will start doing the drafting of that, and now that goes into a 3D program. So this is a 3D program called SketchUp that people will take that into, and then that can be extruded or modeled so that you've got the 3D model that you can move yourself around in a very basic program that is used for architectural design and also for getting measurements for an actual construction build. But that sort of, this is just another view of that sort of material can then be taken to another program using different file format that is a program that the visual effects people work in. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to make sure that flow of information and data is going constantly from one group to another. So this takes the work of a designer or an art department to the visual effects people, who can then take the model, and in this case of a set that someone has decided they may want to build, that they've designed in 3D program, originally done concept art and then built. So it can go through different iterations. You can then build it if you want to, or if you want to try it out first, which you can also do. You can take it into another program called Motion Builder, which is based on a game engine, which you can then manipulate it in, finish some of the textures and props, just another view of it, and then
Ben.
Hi, Venus. It's good to see you. Good to see you. I keep forgetting you're so French. So cosmopolitan.
You're just glowing tonight.
Well,
Do you think? Really? Do you think I am? Oh my goodness.
good to see you.
Hi. Hi, Ben. How are you? Oh, you stepped on my toe, but it's okay. So good to see you. Come on in. Let's not hover around the door.
Yeah, come on in. Come on in. I'll take care of Ben. Don't you worry. So please have a seat. Have a seat.
Yeah, make yourself comfortable. I'm glowing. She already said I'm glowing.
for them whether they need the 3 sides or 2 sides, or whether you need to build the walls higher or put a ceiling on because you want to go low. So it's a way to create that collaboration process as early on in the production process as possible. And all of that can be done interactively so that a cinematographer, a designer, a producer, a director can be there. So this sort of workflow is being integrated into what's happening within courses also at Sheridan, both in terms of we're talking now with computer animation program, but also in theater as far as actors. As I said, on the left, those are part of a performance workshop that we've been doing now for, I guess, about 3 or 4 months now or longer. With time flies. With the performers union, actor performers union.
We did it last year also.
Yeah, and we can't do it enough, in terms of getting them in and getting them improvising and working and seeing what it's like to work in that space as opposed to within a theater or a television set situation. So that's an example of the Previs virtual production. This is the biggest project that we've ever tried, and it's something that we've been working on for about the last 8 months now. And it's based on a concept that's been around in Toronto for years now. I think it was one of the first ideas that was raised to me about 4 or 5 years ago. The concept of having a dedicated private network that would link together animation, visual effects, and post-production companies within the city, and have off-site storage and render capabilities. And the concept being that it would be a network that would allow for remote collaboration, and different workflows, but also would provide the ability of companies to ramp up their storage and render as needed for projects. They would still have facilities themselves, but instead of having to to cost out whether or not it makes sense to buy new capital for a 3-month project or a 2-month project, to have the ability to have an operating expense that they could incur and be able to ramp up and down. So we've worked on this. We were originally involved in discussions with different industry organizations, with Computer Animation Studios in Ontario, Film Ontario, which is an industry organization. So for about the last 8-9 months, we've been doing surveys and consulting with individual companies, and we're just starting up a pilot project that is 9 companies, 9 studios that range from a sound stage to animation, visual effects, and post-production, as well as a software company that's involved, not using their software. We're also using their software in the data center, but they're involved as a small studio that wants to do rendering and simulations on the network. We also have 7 technology companies that are involved as far as different aspects of the solution. So we're facilitating a number of different companies coming together as suppliers who are providing this network in pilot stage. And as I said, we're just starting up. We have the technology in a data center in Mississauga. So over the pilot stage, which is over the next 6 to 8 months, the 151 Front Street is a hub where it's the telecommunications hub for Toronto. All of the companies, except for one, are being hooked up by 1 or 10 gig fiber to 151 Front Street. And during the pilot stage, we have a couple of 10 gig links from 151 Front to Mississauga campus of Sheridan. We have a data center there, which has some pilot test equipment in terms of storage and render. So basically, we're testing, we're stress testing, and we're with each of the companies, we're setting up small research projects and demo projects that will validate the network so that we can then expand it to a full industry launch by the end of 2014. And this is a project that is going to involve a lot of students at Sheridan, because what it does is it not only is something that the industry has been suggesting or saying would be a key strategic move for Toronto for a long time now, but it also gives Sirt a technology platform. So research will be integrated into this from the beginning. The idea is to have a research platform that's part of it all the time. So if you think of it like roughly percentage-wise, but the data center will include 25% applied research, which will be research into the 75% that's going to be used for production purposes. There will be constant research on best practices and bringing in new innovations. There will be research on that node in terms of new solutions, companies on the network or other companies within the region that have solutions that might help to be tested or will push the network, but also using it as a way, as a place for students and others to engage in demo projects that can then be pushed out into the network. So it's a public-private partnership that will involve mixed use of research, commercialization, and production. And it will involve not just the Greater Toronto area, through Sheridan. Sheridan has fiber to Oakville and Brampton, so the concept is that there will be companies within the GTA that will connect to Oakville, Brampton, and Mississauga, and ultimately the companies here are interested in the connectivity to international to be able to use this to foster international productions. So we're looking at international connections to the UK and California. We're also in discussions with a couple of areas outside of the GTA, for example, in St. Catharines and Kitchener-Waterloo. There's been some discussion of Kitchener-Waterloo as a digital media hub, and part of what we would do in the first 3 years is to test that in terms of how much use there would actually be for it, to try and set up demo and test projects to validate whether it actually makes sense, either from an applied research or from a business standpoint, to have that connectivity on an ongoing basis. And Sirt actually for the first 4 years has been partners with the University of Waterloo's Institute for Computer Research, So that's part of the connection there also is the role that the University of Waterloo plays. So that's really looking at a number of different projects that we're involved in, and this one being, as I mentioned, the largest one that is really based ultimately on the concept of as I mentioned earlier, of combining research, collaboration, commercialization, and production. A lot of what we're beginning to realize is that there's an incredible amount of expertise and infrastructure in Ontario. We, a 3D flick, which is a 3D stereoscopic industry academic consortium. We work with Ryerson, we work with York University. As I mentioned, we work with Waterloo. We recognize that there's a lot of academic, there's a lot of industry expertise and infrastructure and government infrastructure. So as much as possible, what we're trying to do is to push the bounds of how you can link colleges and universities, how college students can learn from university students and vice versa, how we can leverage what the government has already done in terms of either departments or organizations like Orion, to work with them, to work with Ontario Centers of Excellence, how we can really manage to leverage all of that to build something that's unique in Ontario. And we've really, in our minds, been set that task by government at all levels that we talk with, and by industry. Our partners are, as I mentioned before, different industry organizations and unions and guilds, so we tend to get a regional perspective. And we also have a very strong advisory board that has members of the Ontario Media Development Corporation, people from individual companies like Side Effect Software and Comway, Whites, but also from the unions and guilds. So it really is trying to work together and figure out how we can work within that ecosystem, what we call an innovation ecosystem. So that's sort of our mantra in terms of how we try to work. And that's it for me. So any questions that people have, I'd be happy to address now, or we can talk about stuff generally afterwards.
Any questions, Ben? Okay. Well, of course, just as a reminder, you guys were gracious enough to host the SMPTE Toronto Chapter there for a number of meetings as well. So thank you for that. Small